Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. My name's FPL Phillips and it's finally that time where I get to have some fun this season because I'm activating my wildcard ahead of Game Week 20. I've put together my first draft and that's what I'm going to be bringing to you guys today. As well as that, with the usual team reveal stuff, we'll cover the captaincy discussion if Haaland's not back fit and available, because if he is, then I'm assuming most people will have the armband on him if you're able to get him back in. And also, we'll be taking a look at the top 10 predicted point scorers ahead of the upcoming game week, as always. So without any further ado, let's get into things and have a look at my wildcard draft for game week 20. And I've decided to go with a 3-4-3 formation. However, this draft has got quite a lot of depth to it. I'm very happy with it. I'm going to talk through all the different selections that I've made, as well as a few other picks that I'm considering in quite a number of positions in this draft, because there are quite a lot of options that I like the look of for my wildcard. In goal is where I'm looking to go with David Raya. I think that although Arsenal, you could say having two midfielders could be optimal with one defender, three outfielders basically being the stronger tactic with Arsenal given their good run of fixtures coming up. I think that in goal, there's not a real standout option at the moment other than David Raya. Of course, I could go with what I'm assuming will be the most popular Dubravka and Areola combination, given that he looks like he's back now and first choice for West Ham. Rotating keepers is never really my style, however. There's only really one fixture, I think 5 game weeks down the line, where Dubravka, who's on my bench, would come in for Raya. So for that, I'm kind of happy to spend that 0.7 extra, go a little bit more premium on the goalkeeper, and kind of sacrifice funds elsewhere, and you'll kind of see where I've done that with this team. One area where I've not really done that is the defence. I've decided to go quite expensive with my options. Trent Alexander-Arnold just looks like a player you kind of need in your side at the moment. He's racking up bonus points even when he's grabbing bookings. He's looking fantastic on the whole. Joe Gomez coming in, I did notice, meant that he was a little bit more advanced on the left-hand side with Trent kind of tucking in, but even from those kind of positions in recent weeks, we've seen him pinging long balls forward. He's great, a brilliant creative force, of course, as we know, so he can hit those balls over the top. And players like Diaz and Jota, who are going to be relied upon with Mo Salah going off to AFCON, I think can definitely get on the end of some of those. We saw it with the Salah goal, in fact, just 2 game weeks ago, with Trent picking up that assist. So he has to be in my side, as does Pedro Porro, really. The underlying numbers with both of those players speak for themselves. I still don't really think that Spurs are a brilliant defence, and I think that there is a big concern with them losing some of their midfielders, Pepe Sarr, Basuma, both going off to the African Cup of Nations. They've also got Romero, who looks like he might be out for a couple of weeks now after picking up an injury. So there are a couple of worries for Spurs. Whether that will affect them attacking-wise as well, I suppose we'll have to see. But from the previous weeks just gone, I think Porro is close to a lock in my side, really. Kyle Walker is probably my most outside-of-the-box pick. Sheffield United at home, as well as a lot of other good fixtures coming up for Man City. They've got a double game week due as well, of course, at some point, which is definitely something to consider when considering their assets. And in fact, I would have maybe liked to go with another Manchester City option in the midfield, which is where I've gone with these 4 assets instead. Of course, Salah and Son have to make way, given that they'll both be going off to their respective continental competitions. I've gone with this midfield of Palmer, Bowen, Saka and Richarlison. So rather budget. Could have held on to Son for 1 more week maybe and booked in a transfer, but I quite like the look of this midfield. Richarlison himself has looked brilliant as of late, of course playing as that number 9 now, and he does seem like, I think we know he's a very confident player. Like, he needs to be a confident player to do well, I should say, and it looks like he's got that confidence at the moment, so I like the look of him and kind of has to be in my team. A little bit of a no-brainer once Richarlison got into form at that price, that he would be a great option as a midfielder in FPL. Saka's one I'm willing to hold on to. I've got quite a lot of funds invested in him, actually, which is why I'm quite hesitant to switch him maybe over to someone like an Odegaard, even though I may slightly prefer him as an option. Did also allude to the fact that I would maybe double up on an Arsenal midfield as well. Just don't think I've seen enough from them as of late to kind of warrant that over the other 3 assets I've got in here in this midfield, given that, 2 of them are a lot cheaper than going for Odegaard as well. Bowen's near enough the same price, but again, another one playing as a number 9, with Kudus going off to AFCON. Again, another team who could be affected. It's only one player, of course, but I think that could definitely negatively impact West Ham in a way where, have they got that other player who's able to come in? I'm not so confident. I think Kudus has looked above and beyond a different level from that West Ham side, and to be honest, with him gone, I think it could be, a turn for the worse in terms of attacking form for them. So maybe Bowen will be a future transfer out. The fixtures aren't the best in the world, but happy to stick and loyal to him for now. Palmer, again, another kind of no-brainer pick when I'm looking for a cheap midfielder. Was it 5.6 million? Luton, some fantastic fixtures. Other than that, coming up for Chelsea too. He's got 5 more games to go before he gets another suspension now, after being a bit of a pain in the ass for my team in game week 19, given that I already had Trippier, Lascelles, cash out. I was almost considering playing the wild card then, to be honest, instead of doing that. I took a Ryan at -4, which ended up being a pretty crap move, in all honesty. Up front is where we're looking at Haaland. If he's back, fit and ready, then this is going to be the draft. Ollie Watkins, and then Christopher Nkunku is the one I've gone with as a third forward option. Another player that I would maybe like, given that I've also got quite a strong bench, is maybe going for Ivan Toney, who does return in game week 21. Brentford, they're going to have this double game week coming up at some point. We know that Mbomo's out. Ivan Toney's going to be heavily relied upon for goals. Hoping he can come back in, trying to jump on it and getting ahead of the curve could definitely be something I would do. Given that I've got players like Gabriel and Garnacho on my bench for this game week, it could be a thing to do. Get ahead of the curve, go for Toney instead of Nkunku, just bench Toney for one game. Already got, one sub I'd still be happy with, despite having Toney taking up that third sub spot. And then going that way. I don't know what you guys think about Ivan Toney and going for him and just jumping on him straight away, but I'm quite tempted. I'm hoping, really, that we get some better Haaland news before the Game Week 20 deadline, and I'm kind of assuming that is going to be the case. If Haaland isn't available, then, of course, I'm going to be tempted to shift funds back into midfield and bring Mo Salah back in. One thing I would recommend to you guys, and that I haven't actually done so far, is make all these moves. I've got a lot of funds invested in Salah from price rises, so if, lo and behold, Haaland's not back and available for this game week, then I'm not going to want to move Salah to him probably for another game week. So then I've got Salah still in my team currently, so that I don't miss out on those that kind of value. If I sold him and then bought him back on the wild card, I'd still lose like 0.2 or 0.3 in value or something ridiculous. So don't make changes on the wild card, in my opinion, unless you're looking to catch price rises and you're not taking out players who you've got value in already, who you might end up holding on to on your wildcard draft. So that's why Salah and even Son are still in my team at the moment. So yeah, that's going to wrap up my Game Week 20 wildcard draft. Let me know what you guys think of it. There are some other picks I'm considering, as mentioned. In midfield, I'm looking at maybe going for a Grealish or someone like that, especially if Haaland's not fit and available. Then I still want a way into that Manchester City attacking front line. Alvarez doesn't quite tempt me as much. I do want to see what happens, and I'm interested in what happens when Kevin De Bruyne, who looks like he's looks like he's going to return imminently to the Man City team, does do so. So again, that's another interesting one, and another one, if he was actually back and at full fitness, I would have even been considering bringing into my team. Me and De Bruyne have a history with that triple captainship a few years ago, just the same as Andy Martin. Got 90 points from that, if you guys didn't know. But yeah, I have to brag about something because my season so far is going terribly. Let me know how your guys is going. I hope it's going better than mine. Are you guys playing the wildcard chip this week? I'm impressed that I've managed to hold on to it for that long, to be honest, and I'm seeing quite a few people able to activate the chip this week. Would your team look a lot different to this? Which other players would you be tempted by? Or maybe you're looking at transferring in this week for a long-term pick. Let me know who those guys are down below in the comments, and send me any of your other questions that you've got FPL-wise down there as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. And actually, before we go, I've forgotten, we need to look at the captaincy and the predicted points. So if Haaland is not back... then these are the 3 options who I would be looking at: Son, Salah or Watkins. Personally think that the standout option is probably Mo Salah, given that Newcastle's form as of late has been rather poor. The XGC from here is taken from over the course of the season, but we know Newcastle are kind of a weaker side away from home, and as well as that, even at home, they've looked poor. Quite a lot of losses recently. So despite that being a great fixture, I'd still be very tempted by going for Mo Salah, even over Son against a team like Bournemouth, who, despite having a poorer XGC over the entire course of the season, are not too bad and actually kept a clean sheet in their last game away at Fulham. So they've done it in an away fixture, just gone. So who says they can't do it again at Spurs, or maybe even go toe-to-toe with them, and it might be a high-scoring game, and maybe Son will end up being the better pick. But for me, it's probably Mo Salah. Ollie Watkins is there as well, of course. Burnley at home is a very nice fixture for Aston Villa. Was definitely robbed a few game weeks ago of getting a decent points return. But for me, there is just more to gain from those midfielders, I think. And Salah would actually be my pick of choice, even despite the 0.9 gap between him and Son in predicted points for this game week. Speaking of those predicted points, let's take a look at the top 10 for this week. It's going to be Son, Salah and Watkins at the top. As mentioned, Son is number 1. Foden and Grealish then come in. Grealish is definitely one I'm looking at. Maybe you could look at Foden or maybe even Bernardo Silva as midfield options at Man City too. Douglas Luiz of Aston Villa. Then we've got Ake, Bowen, Ruben Diaz, and finally Julian Alvarez. So Alvarez quite a way behind some of his teammates. Take that as you will. I suppose it's only for one game week anyway, as Man City take on Sheffield United at home. And thank you for tuning in, everyone. I hope you have a good Game Week 20. I will see you tomorrow for Eddie versus the Algorithm if you're looking to tune into that one. I recommend you do if you've been following along with the series, or if you're going to be new to the series. It's where I'm taking on the computer-generated team put together by the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm for each game week of the season. Hopefully, I'll see you there. And goodbye.